Good morning. Happy
Good morning.
Wednesday. My name is Amy Kochek. I am with Amy Kochek Creative. I am a writing coach. I'm a ghostwriter. I'm an editor. I am all things story related. So welcome to another episode of Extraordinary Stories with Extraordinary People. Every time I begin an episode, I always like to give context to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Obviously, with my career, stories are what drives me. They're what gives me passion. But I think one of the most important things that I've learned through this journey is that, hi, Harsha, is that stories are your most valuable asset. Like there's nothing in your life that you have more powerful than your story. And what I discovered through my career and through working with people is that so many people had these phenomenal stories and experiences, but didn't necessarily have a platform to share them. They weren't writing books. They didn't, have podcasts, but I still felt like they had really valuable stories that needed to be shared. So what I do on this show twice a week, every week, is I bring on people that just have some really amazing stories to share and have watched so many people be impacted by these amazing stories. So I'm so excited because today is no different. I have Tony. Say it again. What's your last
name? Vouis, like Louis.
Yes, like Louis. Man, I almost had it. Tony is, and I'm going to let him introduce himself to you, but I go to, if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I go to CrossFit and I'm just like a huge lover of my gym and the community that's there. And Tony is the mastermind, the creator behind this amazing community in St. Pete. But I'm going to lob it over to Tony. Tony, I just want you to introduce yourself. Tell us any valid information you want to share.
Yeah, so my name's Tony. I own and operate Bird CrossFit with an amazing team that does, without them, I couldn't really do much of anything. But we've got 3 locations, one in St. Pete, the one that Amy goes to, and then one in Pinellas Park that's actually soon to move to Tyrone here in October, and one in Ohio in Sunbury, kind of my hometown. Yeah, I have 2 kids, Johnny, who's 1.5 years, and then Quinn, who's going to be 4 in October, and a wonderful wife, Jen, who works alongside me doing all the nutrition stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
awesome. Okay, so as we do with every interview, we're going to focus on one pivotal moment in your life that kind of changed things for you, changed the trajectory of your life. So if you can set us up, take us to what was going on before this moment happened, and then take us to that pivotal moment.
Yeah, so I emailing back and forth with you, I really was kind of struggling on this. A lot of weird things have happened in my life. I'm sure everyone's life, but I guess it started when I came to Florida. So when I was in college in Ohio, I went to Columbus College of Art and Design. I graduated there with a fine arts degree, and decided that while I was going to school there, I was like, I'm moving to Florida. My sister lived down here, and she kind of pushed me to be down here with her, and the weather as well was a big factor. So as soon as I graduated, I finished school and then hung out for the summer and moved down to Florida. So I moved into a little apartment with my college roommate, and we lived in Tampa by the airport for a little over a year. It's that was kind of the beginning of a big life change. We really didn't have anything. I didn't have a job. Had a little bit of savings to last like a couple months. So we both kind of were in the same boat, him and myself as roommates. But we came down and I got a job blowing glass for a lady in Tampa. And she actually specializes in like large castings. So we did a lot of casting work, but I also did a lot of her production stuff, Christmas ornaments and cups and bowls and those sort of things. But then we cast a couple times a week. And from there, I got into I was tattooing before I moved down. Had just started, and I got a position tattooing down here at a shop in St. Pete, and that's kind of what brought me down to St. Pete. So I was not very good at tattooing. I didn't really know much of anything. I didn't really have an apprenticeship. I'd been tattooing out of my house before that, and then I worked in a shop for like 2 months. And the shop was kind of we'll call it a street shop. And then I moved on, and the girl that was working in the shop that I started at here in St. Pete kind of knew what she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And I'll give her a shout out to her. That's Chelsea Ray, and she actually owns Amulet Tattoos here in St. Pete. Awesome shop. So I worked with her for a long time before she opened that shop, and then as soon as she opened that shop, I moved there, and that's kind of when, all this transitions into like getting into fitness, which I guess was where we are now, and started CrossFit.
Before we get there, so I want to ask you a question. So you went to, so when you were in school, right, and you get your degree, what's the dream? Like, what did you really want to do? Because it kind of seemed like you were sort of finding your way, but what was the initial thought when you were in college?
So, I was a ceramic major and a glass blowing minor. I thought glass blowing would be really cool to do. It was something I really wanted to get more into. So getting the job down here was exciting. The lady I worked for was very tough, let's say.
Yeah.
She had a lot of turnover, let's say. Let's put it that way. She had a lot of turnover. But originally out of school, I wanted to be a tattooist. I started tattooing because I thought that was an awesome avenue to like do art. But I wanted to be a production potter. So like basically making pottery, and then you would create molds and then slip cast those and start, make mass production there and sell to, I don't know, TJ Maxx or something,
Yeah.
That was kind of the avenue. So I could still do artwork, but make a living at it, not be the quote unquote starving artist. Not that everyone's a starving artist that does art, but I wasn't into the art fairs and things like that. That was not the plan. So.
Yeah. And it seems like a pattern, right? You haven't verbally said this, but what I'm just hearing is like the pattern kind of seems like you're not afraid to try new things that you don't necessarily know. Has that always been in you? Like to just jump into things even if you don't know fully?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, like as a kid, I used to, like, I built a boat.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, but we were like, I'm going to build a boat. And we built a boat, and
yeah.
Floated / kind of sank. So that was fun. So I guess, even looking back as a kid, it was kind of like that. Just, you figure things out as you go.
Yeah. I like that. So once you get to your tattooing and you're in St. Pete and you're learning, when does this shift start to occur to push you into the fitness realm?
Yeah, so I remember a very specific day. I had heard about CrossFit, and I was at the quote unquote Globo gym doing my stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to do something CrossFit-esque, but not knowing what I was doing. And CrossFit was on the TV, and the lady that was at the gym, the trainer, like did CrossFit, I guess. And I saw her like bouncing around doing this stuff. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? So I was watching, and that was kind of like, all right, this is pretty, it looks interesting to me. And then I ended up actually tattooing the owner of another gym and his wife and one of the trainers there. And they got me in. They said, you got to come and do it. So I said, okay. So I came and did a class, and then and my sister and I actually both started at the same time, and we've always done kind of fitness stuff together. She still comes to the gym every day.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the start of it. So I started doing CrossFit at this gym, and we had a really cool group. So I would CrossFit at the noon class. That was my class. And then I would go and tattoo afterwards. And that was kind of like my journey for a very short time. It was like 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had kind of a huge collapse with that. Like we had a really core group. It was fun. Everyone kind of gets their core group in their class. And we had a big collapse with the trainer there. It was some shady stuff that happened. And from there, I just was like, well, I'm not going back to the gym, but I am 100% doing CrossFit. So I tried a couple of gyms out. And then I was like, well, why don't we just buy some equipment and keep our little group together, and we'll work out together. So then we went full-fledged into that, bought equipment, and I think we had like 4 or 5 barbells, a couple wall balls, 1 rower, just like kind of the essentials. And then I found a little 1,500 square foot cruddy little warehouse, and we started working out in it. And that was kind of the very start. Yeah.
So how many people were there? What did you start with in the little garage or warehouse?
So I had I did all the math. I told everybody what the rent would be, and I said I need everyone to pay. I don't remember. It was like $50 or $60 to pay for rent.
Yeah.
So this is all we need to cover to make this work. And I think I had like maybe 20 people. I think it was more like 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
that kind of helped out with that. And then they'd bring a couple friends, and it didn't really originate into like a class setting at first. It was, there was zero structure. I had all this stuff written in a notepad.
Yeah.
And we thought that, not that it, CrossFit kind of has that raw, cruddy like feel to it. I was like, this is going to be this raw, cruddy gym, and we're just going to sweat and work out and, do this stuff. And it was just like cobwebs everywhere, and, dirty white walls from whatever tenant was there before. And that was it. So yeah, we had like 14 to 15 people. I don't know, 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's how we started.
So were you still tattooing at the time?
Yeah, I was tattooing. I was tattooing full time. By that point, I was kind of catching a little bit of a grasp, knew a little bit more about what I was doing. And I think it was maybe a year and a half after being here tattooing. So I had clientele. It was decently busy there. So yeah, I was tattooing as much as I could.
Yeah. So when does this small group of people in a warehouse start to become a thing where you think this could be something beyond this warehouse?
Yeah. Not long. It was like 2 months, I was like, this is what I want to do. So 2 months of us kind of grinding and doing that stuff. I think I set a class schedule. I got like a processing system to set up memberships to a degree, and then we just started running with it. I think we had one class in the morning. We had a noon class. We had one class at night. I think that was our schedule. So we had 3 classes. Then I was there working out in the afternoon a little bit here and there when I wasn't tattooing. And then within I took on a business partner 6 months in, and she's since moved on and she's doing great. But it was kind of a quick turnover. She wanted to do it was like she wanted in. I needed help, and brought her in, and then she decided it wasn't for her and moved on. And within that 6 to 8 month period, we had moved it was like basically a plywood wall that we could just move back and rent more space. It was kind of cool that way. And we moved it back all the way to about 3,500 square feet from like 1,000, 1,500 square feet. So it was cool.
Yeah.
In like 8 months, we moved it out and had, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 members at that point. So it was kind of cool.
Uh-huh. So where are you learning about like owning a business? Because clearly this isn't anything that you've gone to school for, because you've gone to school for glass blowing. So now you're like on a whole nother spectrum, learning how to operate like kind of like a makeshift gym. So where are you getting your information from? How are you learning this?
Yeah. So our school definitely teaches the opposite of business.
Yeah.
Be a starving artist, strive, do your thing and paint or whatever.
Yeah.
I just listened to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books. I just tried to read a lot of books because I think I told you my email. I still don't really think I know a whole lot when it comes to business. You're just always learning and evolving. But we did most, like, I think some, and I can't say all business, some businesses do everything wrong at the beginning. I think that's what we did.
Yeah.
So it was just you'd mess up, you'd reevaluate, you'd make a fix. You'd mess up, reevaluate, make a fix. So we just kept doing that. And I guess that was my learning process. It was podcasts, it was meetings with other gym owners, it was and reading books. And I think that one thing I will say is every business is ultimately the same process of operations. There's really no different. It's just different products.
Yeah.
So that was something I could relate to when I read all the business books I did. Like it was the same methodology, I guess, just again, different products. That's how I learned, I guess.
Yeah. So how did you go from the warehouse to like an actual, not that wasn't an actual gym, but how did you get a little bit more refined with your product?
Yeah. So there's that turning point. I had an office in the back of this gym that we kind of built, and it was, again, a plywood box sort of thing. It wasn't, it was okay. It was cool for what we had, and I was pumped about it. And I quit tattooing at the shop I was at, and because I was doing it there, and then I started tattooing out of the gym. And it was like it was 2 businesses within one. I had a tattoo business and there. So I would coach class, tattoo, coach class, and then I'd tattoo all weekend. So I usually only did one appointment during the day throughout the week, and I did all weekend I tattooed. And did that for a while. And there's that turning point where you have to kind of jump in all the way. So I quit tattooing pretty much. And it was about that time that we moved to the building down the road. So I actually knew the guy that owned the building, and he came down. He actually did CrossFit when I first started at the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had tattooed his son. So it was very kind of a random little connection. He's like, hey, I got space. You want to move over here? And at that point, I looked at him and I said, let me look at it. And I knew the size of it. It was like 3 times the size of what we were currently renting. And I was just in my head thinking, all right, well, that's going to be 3 times the rent. And I was like, there's no way I can afford that. Like it will shut down. And I go over to him and he gives me the number, and it was not astronomical.
Yeah.
And at the same time,
oh, I lost you. I lost you, Tony. Oh no. I lost Tony, guys. Tony froze. Oh. Let's see if it works again. Technological difficulties. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I was just saying this morning, listen, guys, if you use like tech tools to do things, sometimes it works so beautifully, and then other times it miserably fails. So hopefully this is a pause, and then we're going to come back. Oh, it's not working. Oh, fingers crossed. Send me positive thoughts, prayers, all of those good things. The good thing about this is that the editing tool is real. We can edit this out. Hi, Dan. Dan, we're having technical difficulties. Listen, sometimes things like this happen, and we're just going to hold on to the fact that it is going to work. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to be truly sad. Oh, Tony's router just died. I know. I know. Guys, I might have to end this. Oh, yay.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It just reloaded. So sorry.
No, that's fine. Dan tried to say it was because your phone probably died, but that's not right.
Most everybody knows I'm not very tech savvy, so it's probably.
It's all good. It's all good. We're back. Okay, so where you were at was the guy was offering you rent at the new space, but it wasn't as much as you thought it was. That's where we ended at.
Yeah, so every single time that we needed to expand or like move to a new spot or something, like we moved our wall back, I think 3 or 4 times, and I was always kind of freaking out at that moment because I didn't think we could afford it. And then as soon as that would happen, something awesome would happen where, I don't know, 5 more members would show up and everything would be fine. So this kind of same situation happened. I went and talked to this guy about signing a lease, and then literally I think that as I was debating whether I was going to sign it or not, a group from another gym that I was good friends with, a lot of the guys and girls there, all told me that they wanted to come over. They needed to transition. So that was like, it was a no-brainer from that point. So we moved to the space that we're in now, and ever since then we're cruising there. And that's kind of when I stopped tattooing and went full-fledged into the gym, which was also a pretty scary moment, because tattooing was covering all my bills, and I like tattooing. I really do. So it was kind of like, oh, if we want to do this thing, we got to do it that way. So that's when I kind of jumped ship there.
Yeah. So when you're taking these like big risks in your life, because it seems like you've taken a handful of pretty big risks with not really knowing the outcome, how are you balancing out the obvious fears that come along with the risks? Like, how are you navigating through that?
I don't know. I guess you just think about what's the worst that could happen. And at that point, you know that you're not going to be out on the street, homeless. If this doesn't work out, you're going to figure it out. So I guess I always put it in perspective for myself. You're responsible 100% for where you go in life. So if it failed, then it was my fault. Mm-hmm. And that was, I guess I always say that to myself if I'm doing something new, and that kind of reassures me to some degree that I know that it's like, well, let's do it and see, I can do this. Other people do it, so why can't I do it? Or our team do it, whatever. So
yeah. So once you get the new building, how do you go about building a team? Because obviously one of the things you said at the beginning is that you're able to do what you do because of the amazing team behind you, which I can attest to. I'm a huge fan of the team, of literally every coach, everyone that's involved there, very special people. How did you go about building that team? And then how did you go about building an environment where people want to come and work out and invest? Because it's a bigger investment than you would if you just go to Planet Fitness.
Sure. Yeah. The team that we built right now is probably the strongest team I could ever ask for. It's awesome. Like, big shout out to all those guys and girls. Like, we actually just added a member to the team, which is really cool, to our nutrition team. And I think we have 15 people on the team total, including myself and my wife. So it's really awesome. But there was a lot of ups and downs, as there should be, of course. But no, I made this mistake of putting people in positions that they really didn't fit in. And that was really hard because a lot of the people were really, really good friends of mine. Like, some people I'd hang out outside the gym every single week, and we had to have those tough conversations and say, hey, this isn't the best fit for everybody. And it's not the best fit for the members. So, but from there, we just, we do our community stuff. We all communicate together all the time. I'm pretty transparent with everything going on with the gym, with the team. I ask for, what they think is best, because a lot of times I don't know. So that's where, it works we work as a system together, which is awesome. I honestly don't know how everything works. I think everyone, it's just because everyone's just awesome. They know what to do. They're passionate about it. They care about everybody. And I guess it goes into what, how that community is built is we just, from the get-go, it wasn't about, I didn't open the gym as like you heard, it was more of a club than anything. I wasn't really planning on making a living with it. So it was just kind of, how can we help people and have fun working out? So, and that's still our motto. Our motto is basically to help as many people through health and fitness. And that could be, you getting stronger, or you having better endurance, or you just being just happier. So, or meeting a new friend. We've had a couple marriages within the gym, which is pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the same development that we look for with everybody.
Yeah. So what do you think is what do you think? What would you say is the foundation of a good team? Like, what's the core of it?
I think communication's number one. Like as soon as we have issues, and it's usually because something hasn't been said to somebody else, or somebody won't talk to somebody else because of whatever you're afraid to talk to somebody and have that hard conversation. That's what causes the issue. So as soon as our team communicates, I think that right there solves like 99% of the issues. And listening, when you do communicate to somebody, it's listening. So listening to what they have to say, their perspective, and how it could actually be beneficial if you took their side or blended it with what you were thinking might work.
Yeah.
I don't know if that really answered what you were saying, but
yeah. So how does it go from 1 gym to 3? And how quickly did that turn around?
Yeah, so that was being completely honest, that was probably done way before it should have been done. But it's happened, and it's working, and the reason I say that is because it was a lot harder. Because we did it sooner than I think we were ready for, it made things a lot harder than they should have been.
Yeah.
So we opened both our North location and our Sunbury location like within a month of each other. And that wasn't exactly planned. It was because of some logistics that were kind of either we did it or we didn't do it sort of thing. So we found a building up in Sunbury, which there's not really anything available. So I had to jump on it. And that's kind of why we already had North kind of actively moving. And the building in Sunbury came available, and it was like either do it or you don't do it in Sunbury. We'd been looking in Sunbury for a while. It's a small little country town, but it ended up working out. It's a smaller gym there. So we opened there, and it was a friend of mine that was connected through CrossFit and wanted to manage it. And it's a smaller gym. It's 3,500 square feet, or no, 3,000 square feet. I'm sorry. And a weird orientation. Used to be a lawn mowing shop. So there's kind of an office right in the middle of the gym floor.
Yeah.
But it works. And then since that gentleman took on the general manager position, he actually moved on himself. And Amy Tomlinson is now cranking away up there. So she's a Florida coach down here, or was going through our coaching process, and I gave her the opportunity to move up there. And she's like, hell yeah! So she's been there ever since, and just absolutely crushing it. She takes care of that gym and all that community. And then the North location, we've had a couple different transitions from management there, but Jason Duddle, another coach, he's taken on that, and he's actually a part owner in that. So we're running our Festivus games this weekend. It's our first comp that he's been operating, to host. So we're excited about that. But both those gyms are going to be open, I think, 2-year anniversary in October.
Yeah.
And so we ran 3 gyms. It was kind of like chaos, and then now it's the dust is kind of settling.
Yeah. So what would you say has been like the key to your success as far as being a business owner? First of all, did you ever think you were going to be a business owner? And now what would you say has been your key to actually being a fully functioning, operating business owner for as long as you've been?
Yeah, so I didn't know if I wanted to be a business owner, but I knew I wanted to be like, a tattoo artist as an independent contractor. So I knew I wanted that freedom to kind of create my own schedule, my own path, and et cetera. And then entrepreneurship kind of happened through that and developed from that. So that same idea kind of made sense. But the biggest advice is like the good old Thomas Edison, 10,000 tries to make a light bulb, you can't give up. I know it's cheesy and everything, but as long as you're taking action in the direction or the avenue that you want to move towards, you're going to get somewhere. Even if you feel like you're not getting anywhere, if you don't do any action, people talk about doing a lot of things or a lot of ideas, but I think not very many people take action on them. And that's why a lot of ideas don't happen. So as soon as you take action, something happens.
Yeah. What do you do now to feed the creative side of you? Because obviously that creativity is still within you. So what do you do outside of business to feed that creative side?
A lot of house projects. We built a lot of stuff in the house. No, we have a pottery wheel at my house that we are still trying to set up because we moved it. It's been 1.5 years now, but we moved and disassembled everything at our other house, and now we got to set that back up. But I color with my daughter a lot. That's kind of fun to do. It's a little bit of an outlet. Yeah, it's just little things here and there.
Yeah. So the unique work ethic that you have, right? Because like I said, you kind of seem to jump into things and very hard worker and passionate about people. Where do you feel like you got that from? Is that like just based on experience, or were you exposed to that at a young age? Like, where does that come from?
Like I said, as a kid, I always liked to jump in and do things on my own. I didn't like to have to wait for permission. So it got me in trouble a lot, but it also gave me a lot of experience in like, all right, I can do this. So it gave me confidence in that. And then I know growing up, I had, before moving to Florida, my goal was to, you know, I had some tough, financial setups. And I just didn't want to be, I wanted to be financially independent. And that was like a huge, huge goal of mine. But once I was through college, so that was kind of the driving force there. It's like I couldn't fail when I moved to Florida, because that would be a pretty hard hit to my ego, I guess, and like where I wanted to be. So I guess that was it. Like I just set that goal in my head. Like I needed to be financially stable. Yeah. Or independent, I guess.
When you were reading books and listening to podcasts, what would you say is like the most influential book that you read or podcast that you listened to that really helped?
Well, I've read a lot of new books that are pretty cool. I think my team and I read The Go-Giver, which is an awesome book. Some of my team did not everyone. We're trying to get everyone to read that book, but that was a cool book. And but Rich Dad Poor Dad's an awesome book. It's definitely inspirational as far as like being financially like independent and stable. I say that's one of them there.
Yeah. So for this, from this entire experience, right? And a lot of your experience has to do with jumping, taking risks, and definitely a self learner. What would you say is like the main thing that you've learned about yourself in this whole process?
I've learned how to listen better, I think. I hope. And I think, I guess emotional intelligence has grown considerably since having a gym, because it's actually, you know, it's a relationship business. And that I like to hope that it's grown quite a bit. And that's been a big life change for me, as far as like understanding how I'm perceived and how I perceive other people, and how to build relationships. And it's all that's really fascinating to me, and I'm learning more and more about it all the time. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway, is like that's helped me in life overall a lot, like just personal growth.
Yeah, I love that. So I want you to specifically talk to someone that's watching live or someone that's watching in the playback. You know, a lot of the trend right now is, the dream is own your own business, right? Live on your own schedule. You can go on vacation. You can work from the beach. It sounds really great. But what would you, to someone who's wanting what you wanted when they got out of college or whatever situation in life, financial independence or entrepreneurship, what's one piece of advice that you can give them, or even a piece of encouragement if they're in the midst of it, in the midst of the struggle and not doing well, let's say? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so one is, you have to take action. If you're just talking about it and you're maybe even writing stuff down, that's at least a start, but you've got to do something to make it happen. The second would be read a lot, read every day. And then the third would be, you know, try to find a mentor in that industry, or in any industry that would kind of coincide with what you want to do. So find someone that can kind of maybe not even tell you what to do, but basically reassure you that your thought process is valid. And I think that's almost what a lot of mentors are made to do. It's just kind of like have someone to vent to. So that's been, you know, finding someone like that is crucial, I think.
Yeah. One more thing. So this is kind of a follow-up. Well, one of the things that I find so unique about Berg CrossFit is the heart that's behind it, right? Like genuine care for people. What do you think the process is for businesses to implement that? Like a real care and concern for people. How is that implemented? Because that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's really tough. And we actually talk about it at every single meeting that we have is our core values. So be humble, unified, relentless, and gratitude. And we really stand behind those. And we made bracelets for all the members. So if anyone doesn't have a bracelet that's listening to this, you need to stop and grab one at the gym and put it on, wear it. But I guess core values are kind of the why of the business. Like, why are you doing this? You have to really dig. Like, that's a constant evaluation of who you are and what your business is. And I think that's, we evaluate that. Again, we go over it every meeting, and then we reevaluate that every 90 days. We talk about it. What could be better? How can we change? How do we make that a stronger system? So it's I don't think it's like just one solution. It's like you have to continually work at it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, Tony, tell us for two groups of people. One group, those who are local, who are looking for a gym or who are just interested in trying CrossFit or looking for a community to connect to with their health. How can they get in touch with you and with Berg?
Yeah, so you can swing into the gym, either gym if you want, and that's one way. But the best way is just to go to birdcrossfit.com, and you can click on a free no sweat intro. You're going to come in and talk to a coach, tour the gym, discuss your goals, how we can help, and then from there we can get you into a class and see what you think. So that's for locals. If you're in St. Petersburg, Tampa area, or if you're in Sunbury, Ohio, Delaware County area, up in Ohio. And then otherwise, to get a hold of me, you can email Tony at birdcrossfit.com. And that's BURG, not BERG. So for anybody looking for that, BURG CrossFit.com. Or again, to get a hold of the team, it's just info@birdcrossfit.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Tony, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Truly, truly fascinating. As I always say when we get ready to close, the purpose of these is not just to consume content and not just to watch, but to connect. So definitely, if you're local, check out Berg CrossFit, if not just to see the environment that they've created over there. And if you're a hopeful business person and you just need encouragement, reach out. This is why we do what we do, because human connections are what drive us. They're what make life worth living. So Tony, thank you so much for your time and your story. To everyone else, thank you for watching. Please tune in again this week on Friday. We have another really amazing guest. Thank you so much.